Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, California Weather Watch. Today is June 30th, and right now we are looking at the visible satellite imagery. As of this morning, you can see the marine there pushed in towards Southern California. As we scroll through the late morning and afternoon hours, you can see the cumulus clouds building across Nevada, Northeast California here, and Arizona. The thunderstorms get going a bit earlier there. And we scroll off in towards this afternoon here, and you can see the active thunderstorms across Northeast California, Southern Oregon, and portions of Nevada and Arizona. Some blowing dust with the outflow winds is of some concern as we go through this evening as well. It could be approaching the Phoenix metro area, but you can see that active thunderstorm right on the Nevada-California border here as we go towards sunset. Now, the big weather story, though, coming up here is going to be the dominant ridge over much of the west coast here. Very warm conditions incoming here, prolonged heat, and we're going to dive into all those details as we go through the video this evening. First, I kind of want to point this out here. Marine Weather Outlook, Eureka National Weather Service at 10 a.m. This is for tomorrow, July 2nd. And July 3rd, some strong northerly winds and some big seas. So heads up, mariners, keep your wits about you there when you're out across that region. Now, taking a look at the excessive heat warning and heat advisory, as you get away from the immediate coast, some of the higher terrain, some of the valleys that are close to the coastal areas are going to get very warm here as we go through the next week or so. And there's going to be some areas exceeding 110 degrees, especially through the interior valleys. And we'll dive into those details here starting now. Looking at Crescent City, you can see the average high this time of year right around 63 degrees, but you can see the European wants to warm things up. You can see approaching some of the low 80s here, but that just depends on just how strong this offshore flow is going to be and just where this ridge axis sets up. More on that here in a moment. And you can see this blue line down here is the average overnight lows for this time of year, so above average conditions here. Now, remember that because we're going to go over some of the temperatures here across the region, starting with Weaverville, for example. Look at July 3rd, 4th, and 5th, approaching 110 degrees for all 3 days. There are some very warm conditions. And again, some of the immediate coastal areas could be dodging that heat bullet here. But if you turn those winds offshore, you can really warm up even some of the coastal areas here also. Now, taking a look at Brookings, Oregon here. I know this is Oregon, but it's very close to the California border, and this is right on the immediate coast there. But if you do get these offshore winds, you can see how these temperatures can really ramp up. Look at the average highs for this time of year is right around 70 degrees, but you could be approaching 30 or 35 degrees above that for some areas across some of the Northern California. Central California also has the potential to be extremely above average for this time of year, and we're already pretty warm for many areas already. And you can see Brookings here, the average overnight lows are 53 degrees or so, and you can see some of these overnight lows towards 70 degrees. And this is Eureka, California. You can see the warm up there with the average highs only in the upper 60s this time of year, and the warm overnight lows. Redding, California. Now we're starting to look at the really warm stations. Look at Friday and Saturday approaching 118 on the most recent European. The average high temperature for this time of year is right around 100 degrees. And you can see in the overnight lows, you're not going to be looking at those mid and upper 60s. You're going to be looking at those mid and upper 70s here. So not much relief overnight for a lot of areas. You're probably going to need air conditioning for many locations. This is open windows and fans might not be cutting it. Taking a look at Chico Municipal here, you can see a lot of mid 70s in the overnight lows, and a lot of 110 degree readings here, 105 plus here for a week extended, so very warm. Marysville, California, something similar. Days could be approaching 115 with some very warm overnight lows. Sacramento as well. Look at this, 114 on 3 days there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, maybe a week of 110 degree temperatures for Sacramento. So some records could be falling with this heat wave coming up. And again, very warm overnight lows. Fresno, California, no exception here. Probably looking at a week of 110 plus degree days coming up here. And the average high this time of year is right around 98, 99, or 100 degrees. Bakersfield, California, again, very warm interior. Burbank, Southern California, not quite as hot, but you can see it will be slightly above average here. So you'll notice the warmth there, but nothing too crazy as if you go up and towards Bakersfield and the valley areas up the I-5 corridor northbound, it can be extremely hot. Here's Ontario, California as well. As you see, slightly above average and probably not record breaking, however. Now, this is Hanford National Weather Service. This is the extreme heat risk here. It is the highest. You can see minor, moderate, major, or extreme. And yeah, we're talking 4 out of 4 here. So prolonged heat that is very dangerous unless precautions are taken. Now, taking a look at the vertically integrated smoke, this is the high resolution rapid refresh. Got the Fresno and the Basin fire out there. So there's going to be some smoke bobbing and weaving out here over the next few days. And this goes all the way out towards Tuesday morning because that smoke moving around some of the valley areas as well. So on one hand, the smoke can suppress heat a little bit here, but I mean, even if it chops a few degrees off some of these temperatures, you're still going to be over 105 degrees with some smoky skies, which could really make for a nasty combination. Taking a look at the fires ongoing, again, I mentioned the Basin fire here. There's the Fresno June Lightning Complex, and you can see there's other fires out there as well. One off to the northeast of Sacramento, the Creek fire. That's only 16 acres. I don't even know why I mentioned that one, but you can see there are fires out here, and you can go to this website here, the Cal Fire. Go ahead and Google that, and you can check out these individual fires here and see how many acres have burned and what the percentage of those areas are, or the fires are contained. Now, looking at the blowing dust advisory across some portions of Arizona, I did mention that, and they do have the advisory up here. This goes all the way through the evening hours coming up here with those outflow winds from some of that thunderstorm activity up to 50 miles per hour. And possible thunderstorms here. They kind of nailed this forecast pretty well here today, 2 to 8 p.m. That's going to be wrapping up here shortly, but they did nail this up towards Susanville thunderstorm activity today. So good job from the National Weather Service, Reno. And this is that day one excessive rainfall, Alec, just typical monsoon moisture stuff going on out here. It is that time of year, and this is the day two with the marginal up towards the Four Corners region as well. Now, taking a look at the daily max 2-meter temperatures, so you can see as we go through tomorrow, you're starting to get 103 across a lot of the valley areas. Bakersfield checking at 100 degrees, and you'll notice some of these very warm temperatures get pretty close to the coastline here. So except for the immediate coast, areas are going to be warming up quite dramatically. And we go towards Tuesday, July 2nd. Look at some of these temperatures. There's July 3rd, 4th of July, maybe a widespread 110s again for the 4th of July. And July 5th and 6th are extremely warm. Look at some of these 113. I believe that is what for Red Bluff here. Just incredible. And we go through the 6th, the 7th, 8th, and 9th, 10th. You can see these warm conditions, hot conditions, I should say, continue all the way in through July 10th here, and maybe even on beyond that. Taking a look at what's going on here. This is the upper levels of the atmosphere. We've got this Kona low out here towards the Hawaiian Islands, and this system kind of swinging by a little trough here across some of the Pacific Northwest, but that'll be moving through. And then over the next few days, you can really see this ridge get its act together here as we scroll out towards about Wednesday late morning right here. And you can see then this ridge kind of creeps and ebbs and flows and kind of sets up right on the coastline here. And this is what's really going to ramp up our heat here as we go through the upcoming week, all the way in through the end of the week and on in through next weekend as well. Now, looking at 5,000 feet, this is streamlines of the wind and temperature anomaly in Celsius. But the takeaway from this is I want to show you just how much above average we are going to be across the West Coast. You can see that anticyclone, the big ridging here right off the coastline there, and really warming things up as we go on in towards the end of the weekend, next weekend as well. Very warm conditions dominated by this ridge. And this is 2-meter temperature anomaly. So we'll look at here for the high temperatures here on through today, for example, kind of comparing what's coming up this week. But you can see we do have some areas that are above average for this time of year. If we go on in through Monday, this is tomorrow, you can see things start to warm up. Now we're going to go through Tuesday, and again, this is the temperature anomaly for this time of year, and I'm stopping it here towards the afternoon hours. So we're kind of comparing this versus the average high for this time of year, and you can see we're really ramping up the heat by July 2nd. There's July 3rd, very warm conditions. Here we go, 4th of July, fireworks are going to be going off with some extremely warm conditions, perhaps very close to the coastal ranges here, and including a lot of the coastal ranges, actually. There's July 5th, just extreme heat incoming here, folks. There's July 6th right there. I mean, look at this. Some areas up towards 40 degrees above average for this time of year. Just incredible. And then we go on in through Sunday. And then there's the next Monday, very warm conditions. What a heat wave this is going to end up being, it looks like, and not much precipitation to show for it. So it's no doubt going to help dry things out here too for keeping the fire season going. Now, if we take a look here, 925 millibars, and like I mentioned, if you get this offshore flow for some of the coastal areas, you can really warm things up, but it's a big cat and mouse game here for some places, you know, towards Eureka and Brookings, Oregon here, and a lot of places along the coastline here. Once you turn that wind back onshore, you can really have some incredible temperature swings. The Pacific Ocean is always very cold, relatively speaking here, versus the interior areas of California, especially during the summertime. You know, the sun is strong, and so when you kick the winds onshore, you really cool things down. But if you can drag offshore winds and the compression off the coastal ranges, you can really warm things up along the immediate coastline up and down the state of California. So if we take a look on in through Monday, here we go on through Monday afternoon. You can notice we start to swing things a little bit offshore here by the time we go towards Tuesday. And you can kind of see that offshore component there. So we could be looking at some warm conditions even out towards some of the coastal areas as well, as this ridge parks right over the top of us. And depending on where that ridge axis sets up and how this flow emerges across the region, it's going to have big implications on what kind of temperatures we get very close to the immediate coastline here. It's a virtual guarantee that we're going to get extremely warm conditions across the interior region, especially up and down the Valley of Sacramento up towards Red Bluff and Redding, for example. Now, this is something interesting as well. This is the European ensemble mean on this is the 18Z run. This is hot off the presses, and this is the max, or actually the probability of max temperature equaling 110 or exceeding it. So this would be for today. You can see confined to a lot of the desert areas here. And as we go through tomorrow again for the desert areas, here we go on into Tuesday, and you'll see that we start to bring these chances here, some chances up over 80% of exceeding 110 degrees or equaling or exceeding 110 degrees. As we go through Wednesday as well, 90 to 100% chance here of getting 110 plus for July 3rd. There's the 4th of July as well, and there's the 5th of July, and then that's going to continue on through the weekend upcoming here. So kind of an interesting way to look at it, kind of the chances of getting to 110 degrees here, and pretty good chances at that. So looking at the Eastern Pacific, nothing going on for the next 48 hours, but I do want to point this out for the Atlantic. There is 3 out here, Tropical Depression 3. So if you click on that, you can kind of see the motion moving across the country of Mexico here in some of the higher terrain. So if we go ahead and take a look at precipitable water, we back this all the way up. There is that Tropical Depression 3 right here. So if you put this into motion, you can kind of see the spin in the atmosphere and that precipitable water kind of meandering across Mexico here. Then you can see it kind of try to emerge out here across the Gulf of California. But you can watch these systems, and sometimes these can add some moisture to the monsoon flow, and it may just do that here, but it doesn't look like a huge surge of moisture is going to make it up into the southwest, but just kind of something interesting we can watch there. Thought I'd point that out. So if we take a look at the 6 to 10 day, this should come no surprise after watching this video here this evening through July 10th. Above average signal big time here across much of the west coast. 6 to 10 day precipitation, got that below average signal for the Pacific Northwest. Little bump there for the monsoon. And this is the monthly temperature. This is issued for today. This is for July 2024. Look at this. Very high chances here for above average temperatures across much of the west here. You can see Alaska be below, but much of the lower 48. Scheduled to be above average here as we go on in through July 2024. And the way it's starting out, that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Here's also the monthly precipitation outlook. Little bump for monsoon moisture down here, and big below average signal here across Pacific Northwest. That does include Northern California and Nevada. And this is something interesting also. This was issued today also. This is the U.S. monthly drought outlook. Drought tendency during the valid period. This little yellow here, drought development likely. We may start to creep a little bit of drought activity back into Northern California, but I wouldn't get too worried about that. As you can see, much of the state of California is scheduled not to be in drought here as we go on in through July 2024, but not so great across some of the Intermountain West and the Pacific Northwest there also. And drought does persist across portions of Arizona and New Mexico. But anyway, yeah, so we'll do this all again tomorrow. We'll break things down. We'll look at the temperatures. We'll kind of try to play that cat and mouse game on what kind of offshore flow, how much of the coastal area is going to warm up here, what kind of temperatures are we going to be looking at, what kind of records could we possibly be breaking coming up in this extended heat wave for California. But otherwise, yeah, click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.